Audience, welcome to Viewpoint from Overseas. I am your host, Misbah Azam. With me, Ali Hassan Samantor and our own Riaz Haq. Every morning as I go to office and every evening when I return home, all I think of cars that can be booby-trapped or of suicide bombers coming out of a crowd. These are the words from the Afghan photojournalist Shah Marai, who was killed in recent attack on the journalist, in which 9 other journalists were killed in the double tap suicide bombing, which responsibility was taken by Daesh. And in another incident in Afghanistan, there is one journalist was shot dead in the province of Khost. We will talk about that, and I will ask my panelists how do they see where this whole things are going, and in general the violence, sudden violence in Afghanistan, increasing violence in Afghanistan, what are the causes of that. Second, we will be talking a little bit about Jalila Haider. She is an advocate, belong to the Hazara community, who was on the hunger strike till death. Just recently, just yesterday, Mr. Ehsan Iqbal, the Interior Minister, and the military chief, General Bajwa, met her, and they talked to her and discussed with her how to proceed in that. I will ask my panelists what is going next in this area. And ladies and gentlemen, in the end, we will talk about a recent development in Pakistan in which the son-in-law of ex-Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, he moved a bill against the naming of physics department in the name of Dr. Abdul Salam, who belonged to the Ahmedi community, and they wanted to change it, and it seems that National Assembly has passed that, and it has to go through the Senate, and the chances are it will pass again. And I'm going to ask my panelists, how do they see that where we are heading at? Dr. Abdul Salam is a Nobel laureate, and he must be respected more than whatever he's getting at this time. So, Riaz, let me start from you. Afghanistan, how you see that, and what is going on? I mean, is it US policy failure is due to all these troubles with Mr. Trump here, and before the show we were talking, this wave is increasing now there. Can you please explain some?
So I was looking at some data the other day that shows that American and the NATO forces have dropped more bombs in Afghanistan in the first quarter of this year than they have in any quarter in the last 15 years. So there is an intensification of violence from the US side. At the same time, on April 25, the Taliban announced that they're going to start their spring offensive. So it looks like the violence is increasing, and now there is a third player,
Daesh.
And that is the Daesh. They're also very active. They're attacking and killing a lot of people. So in the absence of any political or diplomatic moves, My fear is that this is going to get a lot worse as we go into spring and summer. So we're in for a very rough period in Afghanistan because I don't see any initiative on the diplomatic side right now.
So, Riaz, do you really believe that all these things are suddenly getting encouraged because of the problems of President Trump, that virtually President is just busy with his own troubles here?
No, but I think there's also this attitude that I see in this Trump administration, where there is a great emphasis on the military side. And in fact, the State Department has basically been an orphan. Now, we're getting a new Secretary of State.
Yeah, Mike Pompeo.
Mike Pompeo, who seems to have the support and the attention of the president. He seems to be very close to him. So let's see where things go. I hope that he sees the importance of diplomacy in resolving these disputes. But, you know, there's also a lot of fears associated with him. He's, for example, a hawk on Iran, for example.
Of course. And
Mr.
Bolton also.
Yeah, could get worse.
Yeah.
So things are up in the air. I mean, there's very little clarity about the U.S. policy other than just the use of more military force. And that does not augur well for peace anywhere where the United States is involved.
It is interesting, Riaz, that when Mr. Mike Pompeo was not Secretary of State, I used to hear him more after he became Secretary of State. First time I heard him, his statement after, I'm sure he's giving other statements too, after the Afghan blast just Monday.
Yeah, I think he's also very distracted. He's, for example, you know, he was in, even before he took oath as the Secretary of State, even before he was confirmed, he was in North Korea talking with Kim Jong-un. And then immediately after his confirmation, he flew to Brussels for a NATO conference. So I think there's a lot of crises that are demanding his attention. And Afghanistan right now seems to be the crisis that is not getting the attention that it deserves.
Samantor, how you see that?
What I see, I mean, I kind of disagree that the U.S. does not have a policy for Afghanistan. I think there is a policy, and the policy is very simple, that Afghanistan should be a stable state, and that stable state should be headed by people that the U.S. likes. So this recent violence is to make that happen. And basically, it has been a status quo for some time that there's a tussle. I mean, you know, outside the urban centers, there's very little writ of the Afghan government. And, you know, that writ has to be established. So people that are the destabilizing factors, that is the Taliban mainly, but also other groups, they have to be somehow you know, bombed or just silenced somehow. So this is, you know, as Razak said, that there has been an increasing military, you know, action against these elements. There's one more thing I would like to add, Mezbah, is that there is so much control of the Western media on these international affairs that sometimes you know, when somebody, a group claims responsibility of an attack, I take it with a grain of salt, because I am not sure exactly who placed the call to who and said that, you know, that they were responsible. So in this instance, as you said, that it is Daesh who has, you know, who is claiming to have made these attacks. I, for one, am not too comfortable with all this news coming from the Western media and no other media telling us about exactly who was behind that attack. But nevertheless, these attacks are happening, and, you know, it looks like this conflict will drive out more people. You know, instead of making it a stable place, it's going to make it a more unstable place. And it is very unfortunate. The only thing that Pakistan can do at this time is to keep its hands clean and do not in any way show any support or give any support to the elements that are attacking the Afghan government.
But Daesh, actually, it came out that they even told their names, their reasons why did they do that, how they did that. So do you really think that all those things media is just making it? It is a little bit difficult to believe. Do you think so?
No, I mean, the thing is, it's not media that's making, but, there have been reports that came out from Syria and later were found out to be completely false. So I am a bit skeptical. I mean, I know that these attacks are happening, but who is behind them? I mean, it could be that they are, Taliban are behind them. But, it's very easy to point fingers at Daesh because it is more convenient, and Daesh is something that you can say it is not quite native to that land. And it is it's a nascent organization, and therefore it needs to be cursed. So I am, a bit skeptical, but I have to, I have to review this situation more to have some confidence in this reporting.
Yeah, but, Daesh has their own ways of communicating with people. They can come out and they can say, no, this is all wrong. We did not do it. But they never say that. But of course, this is just matter of argument, but we will find out more about it. But like going back to one of your point in which you say that US wants to have a stabilization in Afghanistan, how about what George Friedman in his recent book, he is suspecting that we are not there for stabilization. We are there to keep certain level of destabilization so that we can keep our eyes on the country. And this is not my analysis. I am quoting you, Mr. George Friedman, in his new book.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one analyst that is saying that. It's, I mean, I'm not sure how much weight are you going to put in that analysis. But yeah, maybe the US wants to have some kind of a physical presence, and when the cost of war is low, especially in terms of the US casualties, maybe that is the agenda to keep it going with that low cost to the US.
Riaz, President Obama, in his last State of the Union, he said that he is seeing that for 10 years there would be a destabilization in this region. And now when I read George Friedman, when I hear some other analysts say the similar thing, how you see that? And I would like you to comment. I would like you to comment also on the claimant Daesh claiming this incident.
I've read Friedman's The Next 100 Years.
Next 100 Years. Thank you. Yeah, I forgot the name of the book.
It's been out a few years now.
Yeah.
I think he has some very interesting forecasts. I mean, he says some things that mind-boggling.
Of course, yeah.
One of the things he says, for example, is that the Soviet Union is going to reconstitute itself and be, a big challenge to the United States.
Yeah, he's giving some scenarios that under which it could possible.
And he thinks that once the Soviet Union is defeated, then the next set of challengers to the United States will be Turkey and Japan together.
Not China. That is very interesting.
He also thinks that China and India are not going to matter much.
That's true. That was very interesting.
Which is very counterintuitive. Given
like this time of the year. That is correct.
So I think he said some things that I find a little hard to digest. Because I think...
But never say never, right?
Yeah, I mean, economic power is obviously very important to political and military power. And, the Soviet Union or Russia, which is successor state, doesn't have the economy. In fact, the Russian economy is now smaller than the Indian economy. It's like just $1.5 billion. It's a very tiny
That's
economy.
correct. Yeah.
It's about, very, very small compared to the U.S. economy. It's like, I think U.S. economy is about 20 billion. Their economy is like 1.5 billion.
Yeah, there's something like that.
So, I mean, there's a huge gap there. So I don't know how much of it is true. So I take that with a big grain of salt.
Okay.
The other, as far as the Daesh is concerned, I think Daesh is real. Who's Daesh in Afghanistan? It's not the Arabs. As some people assume that Daesh automatically means Arab. I think Daesh in Afghanistan is the disgruntled elements of the Taliban who have broken away from it after Mullah Omar's death. There have been some infighting, and those are the elements, and those are the hardliners. They don't want to have any compromise, any negotiations, any discussion with the United States. They want the U.S. They want to attack the United States. They want to attack Afghanistan government. They don't accept the legitimacy. They even want to go after Pakistan and India. So they're a very destructive force who are now willing to negotiate or discuss any kind of a deal with anybody.
Yeah. Samandur, you want some comment, or
No,
we should move?
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard my panelists. They both agreed in one way or the other that, we are there to create some stabilization, and that was all our effort over there. And so do I. I believe it too. But it is a good idea to read that book. It is an interesting book. Recently, there was some, actually it's not recent, there is a very old phenomena in which the Hazara community, they are murdered by these religious extremist groups, or even those land mafia also, as their advocate, as one of their leader advocate, Jalila Heather, claimed today. And that makes a lot of sense, that the people, due to these murders, they are leaving the place and selling their shops in maybe 200,000 or 300,000 to run away from there. So she was on the hunger strike till death, and just yesterday she met with General Bajwa, who is the army chief of Pakistan Army, and they had a very good chat, and she came on media and she discussed about it. Samantur, I would like to start from you. How you see that? Do you really see it that after this meeting you are expecting some real changes coming, where the Hazara community will get more security, or you would just say that it is just a matter of the way things happen in our country, third world countries, and everybody will forgive and forget, and this thing keeps going on?
Yeah, I think, Misbah, that this Jalila Heather, she is a human rights advocate and a lawyer. I think that she has been inspired by the Pakhtun Tahaffuz movement. And basically, Hazara have also reached a point where the group says enough is enough, So yes, in the past, Hazara have protested peacefully, and they sat with the dead bodies of 100 people in very cold weather, and there were assurances that there will be more safety for them. But and there has been some decline in the attacks on them. It was for some time. It has picked up speed again. But there was nobody who was like the leader of such a movement. I think in the face of Jalila Heather, that movement, that protest the Hazara want to launch, has found a leader that can really take it to places. And that this woman, young woman, Jalila Heather, she is also involved in the PTM. When the PTM did its jalsa in Quetta, she was there, she spoke. So the main thing is this, that all these communities, especially, Hazara, I mean, you can say about the Pashtun that yes, the other elements, the Taliban elements were also part of the Pashtun, so you can put some blame on some part of that large ethnic group, but you cannot put such a blame on the Hazara because they have been on the receiving end of this for a very long time, especially since the Pakistani state has given, more like it's lenient towards these radical Islamic groups. And I think that Jalila Haider, she's a very mature person. I'm pretty sure she had meaningful dialogue with Bajwa and the ghettoized existence that they are living in, the Hazara, that there would be some relief to them.
Yes.
Yeah, I think obviously Hazaras have been a target of hate, and it's not just in Pakistan. Hazaras are also hated in Afghanistan. They've also been dealing with a lot of violence against them in Afghanistan over the years. So this conflict is not just, specific to Pakistan. It's actually a general problem in both Afghanistan and Pakistan. In fact, they have suffered much more in Afghanistan than they have in Pakistan over the years. And I think the general level of violence in Balochistan has come down significantly over the years. And I think the Hazara, in fact, the complaints I've been hearing from the Hazaras in recent years is that there's too much security, that they're almost, they think they're living in jail because there's police all around, there's checkpoints, they check for everything. So the government is providing, a lot of security to them, but these problems still happen. The problem is that people often ignore is that, if you have hatred in society, no amount of security can fix that. I think that has to that has to change. The society is what you need to change. So just having more military, more force isn't going to solve that problem. I was just listening to John Meacham talking the other day. John Meacham has just written a book. It just came out. Actually, it's not come out yet. He's in a book tour, a pre-release book tour. It's called The Soul of America, The Battle for Our Better Angels. And the book is about the hatred that has come to America with the election of Donald Trump. There's a lot of bigotry, a lot of hatred against ethnic minorities, against Muslims. There have been many attacks. In fact, the attacks here are on the rise. Last year, I think there was like 30% or 40% increase in attacks against Muslims. So the society is a problem. And he said, this is very old. I mean, this is not new. The problem is, for example, he gives an example of 1924 Democratic National Convention that happened in Madison Square Garden in New York. And at that convention, there were hundreds of Klansmen who were delegates from Ku Klux Klan. And these guys weren't just average Americans. I mean, these guys were governors, senators,
police chiefs,
congressmen, very high-level officials were in the Klan. And they fought tooth and nail to prevent the nomination of Al Smith, who happened to be an Irish Catholic. They hated him. These guys were basically white Protestants, and they did not want even an Irish Catholic elected. So this hatred has been in this society as well, and it's also in Pakistan. Unless you work on changing the society, the state alone cannot protect. I mean, the United States is such a strong state. I mean, it's a very powerful country, which has developed so much more than Pakistan. And Pakistan is relatively undeveloped compared to them. Its institutions are weak. And you're relying entirely on the state to protect these people. It's going to be, I think these incidents are going to happen unless you try and change people's thinking. And I think it's also related to what's happening with what Captain Safdar did. You know,
yeah, we will talk about that. Yeah,
I think that's related to this as well. It's just general hatred, and in India too. I mean, Modi's election is actually an indication of how much hatred there is in society against minorities.
That's true. So, Safdar, you want to make comment?
Yeah, I want to comment on this thing that yes, there is hatred everywhere, but not everywhere militant groups are supported by elements in the establishment, and that is a very unique situation in Pakistan, that there are militant Islamic groups that were basically condoned, and they were in fact kept there as an enemy of India, and many of these groups are involved in these activities against the Hazara. And, you know, as far as the security for Hazara is concerned, I mean, how is Gwadar so secure now? When do you hear anything happening in Gwadar? That means that if there is a will to secure a place, that place can be secured. But in terms of, for Quetta, such a will does not, at least did not exist. So, you know, that's why we need to see some concrete actions from the state to provide security to the people in general of Quetta, and especially the people of the Hazara community.
Riaz, you want to make comment?
Yeah, I think this is, I don't agree with what he just said. All of it is basically not acceptable. I mean, look, Gwadar does not have a lot of population. It's a very small place right now, okay? All they have is some construction going on. Quetta is a large city. It's in fact the largest city. Securing a large city is much more difficult than securing a smaller place like Gwadar. So that's number one. Number two, talking about the state support. I mean, Donald Trump is the president of this country. He stands up and he says that these people who marched in Charlottesville, who killed that woman, they're honorable people. They're not bad people. Yeah. In India, Modi, the guy who killed, who was responsible for the killing of thousands of Muslims, he rules India. And when they raped and murdered this girl, Asifa Bano, the Hindu nationalists came out in support of the rapists. So, I mean, what are you talking about? This problem is real. It exists in all parts of the world to different degrees. Pakistan has a similar problem. There are some elements of the state, some politicians who pander to these people, to the worst instincts of the people. So, I mean, that's a problem you have to deal with. You can't simply say that, hey, other people are fine, it's just our problem. That's not true. We certainly have a big problem, and we need to deal with it. But if you simply say the state is doing it, then you have no hope. Who's going to come and protect you if the state is doing it?
Yeah, but today when Jalila Haider talked to the General Bajwa made this comment that yes, we had a wrong policies, and still with us there are people who may be on the checkposts and those places. They are there, so we are going to go.
Problem.
Yeah, so we are going to go and at least try to stop that.
Your society has that problem. I mean, these people that you have in the state, the people who work in the military, the people who work in police, they're from the society. Yeah. So some of what is happening in your society is reflected. Now, let me tell you one other thing that people don't seem to understand. You know, Modi loves this guy Safdar. Safdar was the founder, one of the founders of the Hindu nationalist movement.
Supporter of the Holocaust.
Yeah, and he supported Holocaust. And not only that, he actually said it's okay. In fact, he encouraged the rape of Muslim women as revenge for what he believed are the historic wrongs that Muslim conquerors committed, hundreds of years ago in India. And his picture, his portrait hangs in Indian Parliament. And Modi, actually one of the first things he did after he got elected was put a garland, flowers on Savarkar's portrait. So I think to say that Pakistan is unique in this, that we're the worst, we're the most evil, and everybody else is not as bad, or they're better, or they're just fine, it's just wrong. We have to acknowledge we have a problem. We have to try and fix it. But don't say that the problem is, that we're the worst and there's no way we're going to be able to solve it. We have to solve it.
Yeah.
And there are good people within us. That's what this guy, Meekum talks about, appealing to the better angels. We have among us better angels who need to be appealed to try and fix the situation.
So we have to move in our last topic. I'd like to spend some time on that. The Pakistan.
May I just?
Okay. Just quick. You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, so nobody is saying about other countries. Who cares what is happening in India or USA? We have to deal with our problems. And I can tell you that there is a way to deal with this problem. And the way to deal with this problem is to include the Hazara community in the intelligence, in the government, in the army, to really, get them involved so that they can see firsthand who are these people and what is the state policy towards them who are doing so much harm to the Hazara people. What's wrong with that?
If the state is so bad, you think that it's not going to be able to do anything, why bother? You just give up.
Nobody's saying
you just leave the country. This is the kind of argument you're making that's basically fundamentally false.
No, nobody is saying nothing can be done. I'm saying things can be done. But only words like, we'll provide more security. That is not going to do it. What's going to do is that the Hazara people should know exactly what is the connection between the agencies and such people, if there is one, and the best way to have it is to get them involved with the agencies, with the
So a couple of Hazaras, hiring a couple of Hazaras is going to fix that problem, you think? One of our commanders-in-chief, one of the army chiefs in Pakistan was a Hazara. There are Hazaras in the country who are in important places. There is, in fact, recently I saw a number of, actually at least a couple of the women who fly Pakistan's aircraft. The jet fighters, they're Hazaras. The Hazaras are in the military. Hazaras are in the government. So they're already there.
So what should we do now?
Okay.
Okay.
We have to move. We can talk more about it later on. Ladies and gentlemen, today Pakistan National Assembly passed a bill in which the National Center for Physics at Quaid-e-Azam University in Islamabad's name was changed from Professor Abdus Salam Center to one of the Byzantine astronaut Mansour al-Khazini's name. And this bill was moved by Captain Safdar, who is the son-in-law of ex-Prime Minister Mr. Nawaz Sharif. Riaz, please tell me what is going on. His father-in-law is the one who gave this name. So what is going on?
This is a very cynical move. Pre-election move. They know the elections are coming up in a couple of months. They know that there's a lot of hatred against Ahmadis in society. And this is a good way for them to appeal to the worst instincts of the Pakistani people. Politicians are known to pander. A lot of these people that I mentioned who were at the Democratic Convention, who were Klansmen, they didn't really, believe in this philosophy. But they saw that this is a way to get votes. Politicians pander to these things. That's the problem that we have.
So why Nawaz Sharif did that in first place? He just did it last year, a year ago.
And he got thrown out, right? So now he has to get back somehow. So he's going to be willing to do things that he wasn't willing to do before in order to try and regain his position.
Okay, Samantor.
Yeah, I agree with Riaz on this one. The thing is that why Nawaz Sharif did it, it was recommended to him and it sounded like a good thing to, give a nice impression of Pakistan in the world, that Pakistan is not on a witch hunt on some minority religious community, and therefore it was fine. But then the backlash was so much, and then the PMLN realized, and other people realized, that there are more votes in basically pleasing the people who are against the Ahmadis, and hence this move. By the way, this guy they are naming after, his name is not Khazini but Khazini, as in Khazana.
Oh, Khazani. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the main thing is this, that, we need to have our own heroes that come from our land. And Dr. Abdul Salam was definitely such a name. Who cares if he was Ahmadi? He did not do whatever he did, his theories were not based on any Ahmadi faith. They were pure physics. And that's what we should appreciate. So I think that whereas these political parties compromise and they want to attract votes of such people, by such measures, by such actions, they end up making this society even more polarized and more violent against the religious minorities.
Well, basically that was all for our show, but just a small comment on what Samantor just said, that in Pakistan, even Malala Yousafzai was, to this date, people, very educated people, even say that this is all fake, her bullet was fake. So, when society is that way, all these things, killings of Hazara, as Riaz Haq mentioned, as Samantor mentioned, these things will go on. So that is very important thing, that overall situation can be changed only if the way we see things would be changed. How it would happen, you and I don't know. Please keep watching Viewpoint from Overseas. I am your host, Misbah Azam.